Let's get to our first discussion now. According to the latest report from the World Bank, Nigeria is ranked 131 among 190 economies in the Ease of Doing Business initiative. But this is partly because the Nigerian business environment has been colored and polarized with lots of challenges ranging from fear, insecurity, uncertainty, political, environmental, and cultural disparities, leading to collapse of various business outfits, particularly micro, small, and medium-scale enterprises, and the relocation of big ones to other countries. In pursuance of this administration's goal to improve Nigeria's ease of doing business ratings, President Muhammadu Buhari inaugurated the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, that's PEbex, chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Oshibajo, in 2016, with the goal of creating institutional reforms to promote Nigeria's investment attractiveness. In spite of these reforms, the business environment is still fraught with many challenges which are already affecting investors' confidence in the economy. Let's discuss this further. I'm being joined by the lead advisor, Deals HQ Partners, Tosin Ajose. Thank you so much for your time. It's the first time on the show. We appreciate this. Can you hear me, Tosin?
Good afternoon, Tolu. It's a pleasure to be here. It is indeed my first time, and I'm happy to be here joining you on this.
All right, thank you. So like I said in my introduction, in 2020, Nigeria ranked 131 among 190 economies in the ease of doing business. That's according to the World Bank annual ratings. Yes, there are pockets of successes. However, there are also clear tell signs of why there is a lingering unease on the side of investors, both domestic and international. This points to the state of insecurity, bureaucratic bottlenecks, partial automation, and all of this. What do you make of the recent reports we have had on the nation's ease of doing business and the suggestive business and trade reforms from these reports?
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to talk from the perspective of a business owner and also a perspective of someone who advises, businesses. I think while we're grateful for the nominal growth that we have recorded in our ranking as a country in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index, I think that the easiest way to assess a country's performance in terms of ease of doing business is to assess the perspective of the businesses that are operating within that environment, and also to look at what the perspective of foreign investors who are looking at that country or looking to make potential investments in that country will be. And so on that background, even though we know that, we have moved up the ladder based on the World Bank Index, if you look at the business environment that we find ourselves in Nigeria today, many businesses are facing an existential risk. Many businesses are barely getting even. A lot of businesses are shutting down. People are laying off staff, barely able to survive. And what is the reason for this? I think it's not far-fetched. We all know that, the economy situation in Nigeria, we find ourselves in a position where the economy is significantly depressed. And therefore, businesses are having to grapple with many challenges, which hitherto, were not there. So if we find ourselves in a position where, businesses are complaining, the general consensus amongst the business people is that the environment is very, very frustrating, then it's hard to really tell whether, this position that the World Bank has postulated, whether, those that are the critical stakeholders share the same view. And I mean, primarily, I think that whilst the World Bank would measure against indices such as ease of, getting, approvals and permits for construction, ease of registering businesses, access to credit, and the tax regime, I think the everyday business person will look at how easy it is for them to run their businesses and how much government is contributing to the basic infrastructure that is required for them to be able to operate efficiently, and also what the regulatory regime is like for them and how it impacts and impairs their business. I think that if we look at the country and we assess based on all the standard economic performance parameters, such as access to foreign investment, GDP growth, and even diaspora remittances, I think that we cannot argue that foreign investments have not been on a decline over the last couple of years. We also cannot argue that GDP growth rate is not declining. So the economic environment is very harsh and unfriendly. A lot of businesses are grappling with failing infrastructure. Primarily, I mean, for any real sector, for you to see any meaningful real sector growth anywhere in the world, one of the key indicators is that there must be a sustainable infrastructure, social infrastructure system that backs businesses. In Nigeria, for instance, over the last couple of months, we've seen situations where supply of power from the grid has been almost, at a zero level, and people are having to look for alternate, sources of power. And this has made it almost impossible for businesses in manufacturing and other, heavy industry businesses to be able to survive. And apart from that, I mean, we need to look at, issues around transportation and logistics. Our roads are, many roads across the nation are at a deplorable state. Apart from the road situation, there's also major issues of insecurity that makes it very difficult to transport goods from one place, one particular location in the country to another. And this has impacted the prices of everyday goods and services, because all of these are inputs that are necessary, for business. So I think that ease of doing business is a systemic problem. And for us to be able to achieve any meaningful growth in that regard, we need to ensure that we are not measuring notional growth. We are actually measuring, actual impact to businesses that are operating in the country. I think another thing that is important to look at is the view and perspective of foreign investors. Many foreign investors that were, operating within the Nigerian environment have found themselves in situations where they've had to look at alternative locations. Many businesses have shut down operations in Nigeria and looked at, other alternatives across, different African countries, which I think, is, I mean, people are not just going to come and invest in Nigeria because of our sheer numbers. We keep thinking that that's how this will work, but businesses, are opportunistic. So when people are going to put their money in businesses where they are assured that they can, get their principal back, and then they will get sustainable returns over a period. I mean, it's becoming very difficult to be able to give those assurances, given the environment, the economic environment, and that we find ourselves. A lot of investors, I mean, the foreign exchange regime is another thing that we need to talk about. When investors bring their monies or their investments into Nigeria, how are they able to repatriate, their funds after, taking the heat that it takes to do business in Nigeria? If it becomes, I mean, even difficult for you to be able to expatriate, the funds at the end of the day, then that even just, creates another. Oh, I'm sorry, I think I got disconnected for a bit. So you see that a lot of businesses are now looking at alternative locations, which is not very good for us as a country, because, I mean, we need to position ourselves to be a significant beneficiary of the newly integrated regional market on the back of the Africa Free Trade Continental Agreement that has now gone into operational phase. So I think we need to rethink, our perspective on whether indeed we are making progress with ease of doing business, even though, the World Bank Index says that we have moved up, a few notches up. I would like to see a situation where we are competing favorably with other countries such as Ghana, such as Rwanda, and such as Botswana, all of which are within the first 100 positions on that index.
Brilliant stuff there. Great insight. But let's look at PEbex Role, which is to simplify and find ways of changing the growing reputation of Nigeria as a challenging business environment. Now, how does this inform the nation's investment promotion strategy and the success rate we would see, especially at a time of heavy political season, and the twist of who will emerge the president next year?
Okay, I think that one of the things, I mean, we must give some credit to PEbex, because they have been doing, quite phenomenal work from inception in 2016. I think that majorly we cannot deny that there are a few scorecards, that a few positive scorecards that PEbex has been able to record. Yet, I don't know whether it has, really, really touched on the critical elements that are impugning, success of businesses in Nigeria. I think one, for instance, is that the Corporate Affairs Commission has gone completely into automation mode now, and then it's easy for people to, go on the platform, register businesses, file submissions that need to be done, consistently off of the back of the Companies and Allied Matters Act. I think, that is one good thing that has come out of it. Another thing that we must talk about is that they've also, attempted to improve critical infrastructure at the Lagos and Abuja airports, which has, improved significantly the ease of inflow of people into the country. I think now we also have a better defined visa on arrival process, which we must talk about and also commend. However, there are still critical infrastructure failures which are making a mockery of some of these successes that PEbex has been able to record. So for instance, there are still elements and situations where you will hear of people coming into the country and there's stark darkness in the airports and people cannot be cleared, they cannot get out their luggage and they cannot move on to face the business that has brought them into the country. So I mean, without belaboring the issue, I think that there are positive scorecards that we can see from the work that PEbex is doing. However, there are other core issues that make those successes pale in the face of the everyday business person that is struggling to survive in the Nigerian market.
Brilliant. With the global disruptions forcing us now to look inwards, what prospects do you think there are to capitalize on? Well, so that the progress in the business climate towards the implementation of the recently launched National Development Plan 2021 to 2025.
Tolu, I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear that question. So,
okay, let me take that again. I'm talking about global disruptions forcing us now to look inwards. So I'm saying that what prospects do you think are there to capitalize on so that the progress, also with progress in the business climate, particularly towards the implementation of the National Development Plan 2021 to 2025?
Yeah, thank you. I've had the chance to, read cursorily the National Development Plan. I think as usual, or as always, it's a very well thought through plan that is supposed to be implemented over 2021 to 2025. I will rate it high in terms of a midterm, economic plan that has been adopted by the government of President Muhammadu Buhari. However, I think that it's also important for us to note that critical to the success and survival of the real sector and the business environment at large is for us to see, significant improvement in the processes of our ministries, departments, and agencies. Over the COVID period, a lot of businesses across the world, including Nigeria, have had to pivot in the way that they run their businesses such that they can run sustainably on the digital and digital global landscape. We were not able to catch that same level of progress within the government agencies, and this has caused a significant distortion in the way that businesses are interacting with MDAs and with regulators. I think that we expect to see a lot more in that wise. The most government business is supporting business, and therefore, if businesses are adopting innovation and strategic ways to improve their processes and systems, then we expect to see a lot more coming from government. Other than that, I think that the NDP addresses most of the critical issues that we find in today's economic landscape. It talks about dealing with insecurity, it talks about diversifying the economy, it talks about attending to critical infrastructure issues, education, and all the other things that you would expect, to be the focus of the plan. However, I think a major concern that one would have is this. This is coming almost towards the tail end of the administration of our president, and therefore everyone is in preparatory mode for elections. Some of the members of cabinet have had to resign because they are pursuing, their own different political ambitions. So we are very, it's very unlikely that we will see a lot of progression in terms of implementation before the end of the regime of the president. However, we are not very certain that when the guards have changed, that the next administration would adopt and will be willing to run with this development plan. As it is, a lot of times a new administration would have to consider whether they align with that policy direction or whether they want to, go a completely different way. So I guess we're going to have to wait to see how that works. But I think I will score the NDP highly in terms of, content. But two things that remain to be known is whether there is the will to implement, this midterm economic plan, and whether, if there is a will, whether we would actually put in the work to ensure that, we record significant progress over the next couple of years.
Let's try to wrap up in 2 minutes. Let's look at how competitive Nigeria is to other countries under the agreements. You mentioned the AFCFTA as we set prospects ahead for stronger regulatory framework, automation of processes, and executive order compliance. Your thoughts?
Sorry, again, I think I might have missed the question.
Or I was talking about the AFCFTA and how competitive Nigeria will be, looking at all of the regulatory frameworks and others.
Absolutely. Okay. I think that again, it boils down to us understanding that within the regional framework, we must be a viable alternative. Nobody will do business in Nigeria or with Nigeria just because of our sheer, explosive population or large population, which otherwise is a significant advantage. However, Nigeria, the environment must be conducive for people to, do business. And then we must also be able to ensure that when people come here, whether they are in manufacturing, services, or whatever kind of business they are, that they can actually run those businesses efficiently and remain, competitive on the regional landscape. I mean, just to drive this point home, I recall that I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who's in light manufacturing in the country, and he recently said to me that, they were trying to implement their plan to begin to, do distribution of their products across the African continent, and that they find that there is a general, sense of, Nigerian products not being, very well accepted in the market. There's a perception that it might not meet, quality standards compared to, other, products from within the region. So we actually we have a lot of work to do ahead of us trying to achieve, our set out goals for, sitting on that, that advantageous position amongst the countries within the region as it relates to the AFCFTA. So I think that, we must begin to, put in concerted effort to ensure that businesses can run efficiently and can run competitively if they are operating out of the Nigerian market.
I must thank you so much for your time. I've been speaking to Tosin Ajose there. She's the lead advisor at Deal HQ Partners. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time. We appreciate this.